Welcome to Ajarn Spencer's World News Series. Today we reanalyze the previous talk we had on the Donald Trump Riviera Gaza landgrab theory. The concept of a landgrab in Gaza, as detailed in the document analyzed, is deeply rooted in historical and contemporary regional dynamics, representing a continuation of patterns of dispossession that stretch back to the 1948 Nakba. The Nakba, meaning catastrophe, refers to the displacement of approximately 750,000 Palestinians during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. A pivotal event that created a large refugee population concentrated in Gaza, the West Bank, and neighboring countries. This historical displacement established a persistent issue of displacement and the fundamental right of return, setting the stage for subsequent territorial and political disputes. Beyond the immediate aftermath of 1948, Israeli policies in the occupied West Bank have consistently been scrutinized for their role in expanding settlements, altering the demographic landscape, and effectively annexing land, actions some observers characterize as deliberate attempts to impede the establishment of a viable Palestinian state. This ongoing pattern of land control provides a troubling precedent for the proposals outlined in the document. The document and supporting sources suggest that the envisioned landgrab transcends simple territorial acquisition, encompassing a complex plan driven by economic and geopolitical motivations. Central to this plan is the concept of financialization of reconstruction, where the devastation in Gaza is reframed as an unprecedented opportunity for speculative profit. The Great Trust Plan projects a remarkable return on investment, aiming to transform Gaza's land value from a near-worthless state to an astonishing $300 billion within a single decade. This approach, often described as disaster capitalism, prioritizes financial gain over humanitarian aid and long-term stability. Furthermore, the plan's objectives extend far beyond local development. Seeking to bolster U.S. influence within the Eastern Mediterranean region, accelerate the development of the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, and secure access to the valuable Gaza marine gas field. The document highlights a concerning continuity of intent between the 2020 Peace to Prosperity framework and the more recent Great Trust proposal. While the earlier plan focused on development projects adjacent to Gaza, the latter mandates the complete expulsion of Gaza's over 2 million residents from the coastal strip to pave the way for the construction of sprawling megacities. This dramatic shift is presented as a strategic response to the recent conflict, which has physically destroyed the existing urban constraint and, according to the document, made wholesale expropriation politically and physically viable. The plan, as described, raises profound legal and humanitarian concerns, particularly regarding the proposed temporary relocation of Gaza's entire population. The document argues that this forced displacement meets the criteria for ethnic cleansing and provides evidence supporting a potential crime of genocide. The proposed implementation of land tokenization is presented as a legal mechanism designed to extinguish internationally recognized claims to the right of return and restitution for displaced Palestinians. Adding to these concerns is the plan's call for a U.S.-led multilateral custodianship, which the document contends would institutionalize the denial of Palestinian self-determination and replicate historical mandatory power arrangements, effectively bypassing any legitimate Palestinian authority and dictating political and economic outcomes. In essence, the document paints a picture of a plan where historical patterns of dispossession, combined with ambitious geopolitical and economic goals, converge to restructure the territory for economic gain and regional influence, ultimately resulting in permanent displacement and a denial of Palestinian sovereignty. Summarized in short, The idea of a land grab in Gaza, as described in the document analyzed in our previous talk, can be analyzed by looking at past and present regional dynamics. Historical context. The concept of a land grab in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not new. The document provided, as well as several external sources, draws parallels between the Great Trust Plan and historical events. The 1948 Nakba. The document states that the Great Trust Plan is a continuation of the multi-generational strategy of dispossession initiated during the 1948 Nakba. The Nakba, or catastrophe, refers to the displacement of approximately 750,000 Palestinians during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, many of whom became refugees in Gaza, the West Bank, and neighboring countries. This historical event established a large refugee population and a long-standing issue of displacement and the right of return. Ongoing land confiscation. External sources indicate a history of Israeli policies in the occupied West Bank that have been used to expand settlements, alter the demographic landscape, and annex land, which some sources describe as a way to prevent Palestinian statehood. This historical pattern of dispossession and control over land is cited as a precedent for the type of plan outlined in the document. Geopolitical and economic logic. The document and external sources suggest that the land grab is not simply a territorial acquisition but a multifaceted plan with economic and geopolitical motivations. Financialization of reconstruction. The Great Trust Plan is presented as a financially driven project, projecting a massive return on investment by transforming Gaza's land value from close to zero to over $300 billion within a decade. This model, described as disaster capitalism, reframes devastation as an opportunity for speculative profit. Economic and strategic goals. The plan's objectives go beyond local development. According to the document, the plan aims to strengthen U.S. influence in the Eastern Mediterranean, accelerate the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor (IMEC), and secure access to the Gaza marine gas field. Continuity with previous plans. The document highlights a continuity of intent between the 2020 Peace to Prosperity framework and the Great Trust proposal. While the earlier plan envisioned development on land adjacent to Gaza, the later plan mandates the expulsion of the population from the core coastal strip to make way for megacities. This shift is seen as a strategic response to the conflict, which physically destroyed the existing urban constraint and made wholesale expropriation politically and physically viable. Legal and humanitarian concerns. The plan, as described in the document, raises significant legal and humanitarian questions. Forced displacement and ethnic cleansing. The document asserts that the mandated temporary relocation of all of Gaza's more than 2 million population meets the criteria for ethnic cleansing and provides evidence for the actus reus necessary for a crime of genocide. The plan's proposed use of land tokenization is described as a legal mechanism designed to extinguish the internationally recognized right of return and restitution claims. External control and sovereignty. The plan calls for a U.S.-led multilateral custodianship, which the document says would institutionalize the denial of Palestinian self-determination and replicate historical mandatory power arrangements. This external control would bypass any legitimate Palestinian authority and dictate political and economic outcomes. In summary, the document presents a logical framework in which historical patterns of dispossession, coupled with geopolitical and economic ambitions, converge to create a plan that capitalizes on a conflict. The plan's logic, as described in the text, is not based on traditional humanitarian reconstruction, but on a strategic restructuring of the territory for economic gain and regional influence. at the cost of permanent displacement and a denial of Palestinian sovereignty.